happy birthday. Listen, let's continue with your Friday right now. We're heading off to the final frontier, but we bring it close to home, the final frontier right here on Earth, because recently a simulation wrapped up where scientists spent 12 months in a dome. We featured the story earlier on this week to simulate life on Mars. Now, the simulation recently wrapped up, and Jono Weltman's back with us to just tell us and exactly what were the findings of this experiment. Jono, this is such an interesting and weird kind of thing to do if you think about it, if you're not one of those scientists. But it's called the High Seas Mission 4. So it just ended. Firstly, what exactly is it? Where is it?
Well, High stands for Hawaii.
Oh, okay.
And SEAS is Space Exploration, Analog and Simulation.
All right.
And what we're trying to do is we've done a lot to develop rockets and capsules, but we're trying to develop an understanding of what happens to humans if we send them to Mars and we put them in isolation and they're 8 months away. So it takes place on a volcano, very much like a Martian landscape, called Mauna Loa. It's about 2,500 meters in the air, and these guys are in complete isolation. The first 1, 2 were 4 months, 3 was 8 months, 4 was a full year of isolation, and 5 and 6 will be 8 months too.
Okay, so there's a 5 and 6 coming as well.
5 in 2017 and 6 in 2018.
So obviously this is now used to simulate life on Mars, but I mean here on Earth, I mean what's the purpose of these missions? I mean, and what's the findings?
Well, there's a lot of things that would be different if we had to set up a colony on Mars. First of all, there's the isolation factor and how that psychologically affects us. We also look at design, architecture. How would we need to build habitats on another planet? We look at food. Food is a very interesting thing in space because it doesn't taste the same. For some reason, it's very bland. So we actually look at the senses and how we could, if we could stand and adapt to eating and growing food. And so it's psychological, it's physiological, and at the same time, we're trying to develop better awareness of how we would survive on another planet, how we could build a colony.
And I think, well, I think they're making great progress as well. I think the missions to Mars is not too far from the future right now. You know, if anybody would like to apply for, I mean, you said there's a 5 and 6 coming now, High Seas mission. I mean, can you do that? How do you become part of one of these missions?
It's actually open to anybody. You need to have the same type of criteria as an astronaut has, which means that you need to be between 21 and 65. Have an undergraduate degree and 3 years experience, or a postgrad and 2 years experience. And you can't be a smoker because we need very sensitive taste buds. And they also want you to bring research with you. So something that you can work on for 8 months while you're in the habitat, a research experiment that's associated with space. So we've had architects, we've had biologists, we've had geologists work on it, and it is a real simulation. So you'd have to put yourself in an astronaut mindset. You can't even leave the habitat without wearing a spacesuit.
And well, that is incredible. I mean, that is definitely a mind switch, especially knowing that you are still on Earth and you have to go through this mission. Where can one apply? Should there be viewers out there you think that they might meet the criteria?
You can go to high-seas.org, and you can read about all the missions, and you can apply for 2017 or 2018.
All right, very interesting indeed. And yeah, if you think you have what it takes to live in a dome for 12 months with a bunch of other people wearing a spacesuit only when you exit, well, this could be for you. Jono, just to quickly wrap up, recently also made the news, a rocket crash or exploded, a satellite from NASA?
We had a little bit of an oopsie yesterday. As we know, space is always hard. SpaceX was doing a test on the launch pad at Cape Canaveral for a Facebook satellite that was going to provide internet access to Africa. And unfortunately, it went wrong yesterday, and it exploded on the launch pad, and we lost the satellite, and we lost the rocket. We don't know yet exactly what happened, but there will be.
What does that mean for Africa, and obviously with the Facebook connection?
It's a delay. You know, another satellite will have to be built and replaced, and there are insurance for these things, but more worrying is that the SpaceX rockets will need to carry humans to the ISS soon.
Yes.
And this is the second failure in 2
something
years.
Like this happens,
So there is a concern about the standards that NASA requires versus commercial standards that SpaceX has.
All right, Jono, well, thank you for the update. Really appreciate it. And also for our High Seas mission info. That's very, very interesting indeed. Well, that was Saul talking about the future. What's going to be happening in the future? Are we going to go to Mars? Are we ever going to make it there? But right now, let's rewind it a little bit. Graham has got This Week in History.
Oh, you can make my day.